Hey guys, in this video we're going to go through page 5 of the Math ACT. This is questions 32 through 38. With these questions being after the midway point of the test, it's okay if it's taking you a little bit longer than a minute per question, but I would recommend that you pause the video and try each question before you watch the solution. Either give yourself 7 minutes to try all of these problems on this page, or you can just time yourself and see how long it takes. And hopefully doing that will help get rid of some of the test anxiety that comes with the time constraint when you take the actual test. I do also have timestamps in the description, so feel free to jump around if there's a specific problem that you're looking for. Alright, with all that said, let's get started. Number 32 says, 4 identical glasses are shown below. One glass is empty, and the other 3 glasses are 1/4 full, 1/2 full, and 4/5 full of water, respectively. If the water were redistributed equally among the 4 glasses, what fractional part of each glass would be filled? First, let's talk about this word respectively. I've seen it on other ACT problems as well. And it's really just a way of assigning a bunch of values in the order that they're stated in a sentence. So when it says the other 3 glasses are 1/4 full, 1/2 full, and 4/5 full, respectively, it just means in that order. So we're going to redistribute this water equally. So first let's figure out how much water we have. We're going to add these 3 fractions together, 1/4, 1/2, and 4/5. Now, if you know how to handle fractions on your calculator, you might be able to just type this in exactly, and it will tell you the answer as a fraction. We're going to do this by hand. So to add fractions together, you need to get the denominators to all be the same. Common denominators, they're called. So we need to figure out a number that 2 and 4 and 5 can all go into. So first I'm going to focus on 1/4 and 1/5. 4 and 5 both go into the number 20. And 2 actually also goes into 20. So I'm going to turn all of these denominators into 20s. Now in order to do that, I'd have to multiply this first fraction by 5. So I'll do that to the numerator as well. So 1 times 5 is 5. And then for the second fraction, again, turning the denominator into 20. In order to do that, I'd have to multiply by 10. So multiplying the top by 10 also gives me 10. And then for the last fraction, in order to turn a 5 into a 20, I'd have to multiply it by 4. So I'll do that to the top as well. And 4 times 4 is 16. So we have 5 plus 10, which is 15, plus 16, which is 31. So 31 over 20. Now, that's not our final answer, that's just how much water we have. Now we're going to take that water and we're going to redistribute it equally among all 4 of these glasses. So I just need to take the 31 over 20 and divide that by 4. And actually, dividing by 4 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/4. I'm going to look at it that way. So 31 times 1 is 31, and 20 times 4 is 80. So the answer is K. Number 33 says, Aurelio is purchasing carpet tiles to cover an area of his living room floor that is 8 1/3 feet wide by 10 feet long. Each carpet tile is a square 20 inches wide by 20 inches long. What is the minimum number of carpet tiles that Aurelio must purchase to cover this area of his living room floor? Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to take these dimensions, which are in feet, and we're going to change them to inches so that the whole problem is in the same units. So you can take 8 feet and multiply by 12 inches and 1/3 of a foot and multiply by 12 inches, and that will give you 96 and 4 inches, and so total there's 100 inches. So this dimension, 8 1/3 feet, is 100 inches, and then if we multiply 10 feet by 12 inches, that's just 120 inches. So his floor is 100 by 120 inches. And we can even draw that out. And the carpet squares are 20 inches by 20 inches. So if we divide this 100 by 20, that's 5. There's going to be 5 rows of carpet squares. And if we take the 120 and divide by 20, that would give us 6. So there's going to be 6 columns of carpet squares. So if we take the 6 columns by 5 rows, that means we have 30 carpet squares. So the answer is D. Now just a quick side note about this problem before we move on. It's kind of strange that they said what is the minimum number of carpet squares or carpet tiles that Aurelio must purchase. And I think they said that just to include the possibility that the floor area went actually a little bit farther than carpet square tiles would fit evenly. So maybe this is an extra like 3 inches over here and maybe like an extra 4 inches on this side. And in that case, you couldn't fit one carpet tile in there perfectly. So then the minimum area of carpet tiles you'd have to buy is actually more than just the total area you have here. You'd actually be buying some carpet tiles that you'd be wasting some of that area of. That wasn't necessary in this problem, but could show up on a similar problem. Number 34 says, in the standard xy coordinate plane, a circle with its center at 8, 5 and a radius of 9 coordinate units has which of the following equations? Now, the frustrating thing about this problem is it relies on you knowing the equation of a circle. And if you don't know that, there's really not much you can do to figure out the answer to this problem without spending a lot of time on it. So the equation of the circle is this: x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So r is obviously the radius, and then the letters h and k come from the center. So if they're telling you the center is at 8, 5, that just means that the equation is going to have x minus 8 and y minus 5. So that rules out these three answers. And then they tell us the radius is 9. So if we look at the equation, it does say we have to square the radius. And that's why they have these two options. If you forget to square the radius, you'll think the answer is g. So 9 squared is 81, so the answer is F. The next 4 questions require the information on the right side of the screen. When you take the test, I think it's a good idea to read all of that information first before going on to the questions. But I want to point out that in number 35, you can actually answer this question without reading the majority of the provided information. It says it costs $2,500 to administer each YQ test and $50 to administer each SAM-77 test. What was the total cost to administer both tests to all the volunteers? And you can see that we have 1,000 volunteers just by skimming the text. So if you take 1,000 volunteers and multiply that by the $2,500 for the YQ test, and then take the 1,000 volunteers and multiply that by the $50 for the SAM-77 test, and then add that all up, you get 2,550,000. So the answer is E. And I remember when I took the test, I would sometimes feel like I did something wrong if I wasn't using all the information in the problem. But in this case, we didn't need to read pretty much any of this. It's just this one little piece of information that was important. Number 36 says, what percent of the volunteers actually carry YQ77? This one does require you to read into the problem a little bit more. It says here the YQ test determines with 100% accuracy whether a human carries YQ77. We want to know what percent actually carries YQ77. So if we look at the data down here, here's the column where we have the positive YQ test. So all of these people scored positive on that test. That means for sure they 100% have the YQ77 gene. So that's 590 plus 25. So of the 1,000 volunteers, 615 of them had the gene. If you do 615 divided by 1,000, you get 0.615. And if you change that into a percent, that would be 61.5%. So the answer is J. Number 37 says, for how many volunteers did the SAM-77 test give an incorrect result? So again, let's look at the data. We have this column that's showing the positive YQ test, so we know for sure these people have the YQ77 gene. And the 590 also tested positive on SAM-77, so those were correct. But there's these 25 that received an incorrect test result from SAM-77. Because we know with 100% certainty they do have the YQ77 gene, but they got a negative on the SAM-77 test. So let's keep track of those 25, and then let's look at the next column. We have these volunteers that we know are for sure negative on the YQ77 gene because they scored negative on this test. 375 of those people also scored negative on SAM-77, which is correct. But 10 of those got an incorrect test result. So let's add that 10. So the answer is C, 35. Number 38 says, one of the volunteers whose SAM-77 test result was positive will be chosen at random. To the nearest thousandth, what is the probability the chosen volunteer does not possess YQ77? So we're going to focus in on the people that got a positive SAM-77 test result, which is this top row. Those are the people that we're going to choose from randomly. So there's 600 total. But even though they got positive on the SAM-77 test, there's a possibility that they got the wrong test result. And that's these 10 people here. So we have 10 out of 600 people that got a wrong test result. And if you type 10 divided by 600 into a calculator, you get 0.016 repeating, which rounds to 0.017, so F.